Hey everybody, welcome back to the 88th episode of Taps of Patience. We're in a hurry today. Hi. That's my intro. Hi Harrison, how you doing?
I'm doing good, AJ. How are you?
I am feeling a little stressed and rushed.
I understand that feeling.
If the intro didn't give that away.
I am in the same boat, although probably not quite as stressed and rushed as you right now because I'm home and so I'm turned off for the day.
From our pre-podcast conversation, it sounded like you were a little bit stressed from past events, and I am stressed looking forwards at future events.
No, I'm still stressed from forward events.
Okay.
Because, spoiler alert, I'm going to Europe on a family trip in like a week or two. And so I got to get the shop in a good position. And I'm I'm surviving financially, but this is going to put a major burden. We've been saving and planning for it, but it's still stressful whenever you're dipping into your savings that you've been building up for stuff like this. So,
what country? Or countries?
We're going up to. We're starting in, I believe, Argentina, then going through Germany, and then ending in Venice and Spain. I think Spain. Is that Spain? Venice?
Venice? No.
Or Italy.
We need to work on your geography a little bit, bud.
Oh man, my geography is horrible. My wife gets on to me all the time.
Do you mean Portugal instead of Argentina?
I mean the city where you go around in boats.
That's Venice.
Which is Venice, but I can't remember if it's Italy or Spain.
Venice, Italy. Well,
Venice,
now I don't want to sound. Are we just going to sound really dumb here?
We are.
However, Argentina.
It's been. I'm blaming it along or maybe not.
Yeah,
Argentina.
okay, it's Italy. I'm not dumb.
Or not Argentina.
Argentina may be about as far away from Europe as you can get.
I'm getting on my maps. I am horrible with names and locations. Hang on. Netherlands. Sorry. We're going. That's what I should have done. Is I should have just pulled up a freaking map. We're going.
I should have asked you this before the podcast. Sorry.
You should have, man. It's been a long day.
On air.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's horrible. My apologies to anyone who's overseas and listening to me screw this up majorly. Sorry, Netherlands, Germany, and then we're gonna end in Italy, and I believe we're going through Switzerland to get there.
I have not been to Italy. I don't know if I've been to Switzerland. I would have been very young.
In Venice. We might be going through Austria.
The other two are fun. I don't think I've been to Austria. I think I've been to Argentina, but I was really young. I don't think that was Spain. I think that was Argentina.
What did I say initially?
You said Argentina.
I meant Amsterdam. We're starting in Amsterdam.
Oh, okay.
Which is in the Netherlands. That's where I got my confusion. Amsterdam, in the Netherlands, and then we're going down through Germany. I don't remember if we're going through Switzerland or Austria, and then we're ending up in Venice. It's a train route.
Cool.
And it's going to be a 10-day ride, or not 10-day. We're going to be over there for 10 days. But we're going to be, I think, in the Netherlands for 3 days. And then I think we're going to be at 1 day at different locations until we get to Venice. And then in Venice, I think we're going to be there for another couple days. So Amsterdam and Venice are going to be the ones that we're at the most. And then we're going to be at a different location every day in between.
That's going to be a wild trip.
Yeah. And so in Germany, and I haven't done anything with this yet because I have no time in my life. And obviously my brain is all there. But in Germany, there's like 3 or 4 different major machine manufacturers, and I'd like to stop in at one and try to get a tour. But I've been looking at how the train routes line up with them, and I think the closest I get is like an hour or two away. And so there is Kern, Grobe, and Hermle. I think are the 3 that I was looking at. And I'd love to go see a tour of any of their facilities. I'd like to see at least one while I'm over there.
Where's DMG?
They might be
Because
there
they're
too.
German, right?
They're
Deckel.
German as well. Um, and I also have a friend who moved. He was actually our youth pastor um, when I was in high school or college. It was either my last few years in high school or a couple years in college. Anyways, he got married and moved over to Germany, and I haven't seen him in a long time. Apparently, he's got a kid or two, and so we're going to be stopping and visiting with him along the way. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Could you link up with like Stefan or Stefan?
Probably, yeah.
The guy whose name I
If there's
murdered in my
anyone
last
who
video.
listens to our podcast that's going to be in Europe or lives in Europe and wants to meet up, let me know, and I'll see what my travel plans how they line up because that'd be awesome. I'd love to meet different people on the trip. So, but
Uh, Going back to machining a little bit, I too will be visiting a machine builder soon this week, which is why I'm
nice.
super rushed right now. So on Wednesday and Thursday, I'm going to be at the Tormach plant headquarters, Tormach headquarters,
Nice.
up in Wisconsin. So my wife and I are leaving tomorrow night. We're going to drop off the kids with a combination of my parents and her parents. We're going to split them up so they don't overwhelm one group of parents. Um,
Okay.
and then drive on up there. Stay at a hotel overnight on Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, we'll be there all day. I'm roping my wife in as a camera operator, and we're
Gotcha.
gonna do a couple videos.
Get to play with the new machine?
I get to play me. I get to play with the 1500 MX. Me and Norman have all day Thursday booked to just make stuff.
Okay. You have to do a couple things if you're playing with the machine. Um so let me give you just a couple things off the top of my head. First, I want to see any prototypes they have of their chip conveyor.
Okay.
So I've seen it in one of their videos, and they didn't mention it in their video, but there was like a 1 second clip, and I know they're working on it. So that would be awesome to actually see on camera. Um, I'd love to see some through spindle coolant drilling or machining with that, and updating offsets with the wireless probe or anything like with the wireless system. Those are kind of the three big things. Um, and then it'd be cool to see it cutting at max feed somehow. Those are kind of like that. They're kind of pushing the machine to its limits on its speed and seeing what that actually looks like. That'd be kind of cool too.
I'll see what we can do.
Yeah, I'm just I don't know what you guys are gonna do. I'm just that's just my 2 cents. That would be kind of as a viewer of that kind of stuff. That'd be cool to see.
I have a widget that I want to make uh, there with Norman, but I haven't designed it yet. So I don't know if I'm going to get time to do that or not. Because
Go ahead.
the one of the reasons why I'm panicking so much and so rushed is I am also going on a trip with my family. I think it's either Friday, Saturday, or Saturday, Sunday. Um, so basically, I'm going to be gone from tomorrow evening until like Sunday, and I have parts due on Monday, and
Gotcha.
it's the biggest job I have ever taken. But I wasn't counting on this trip. Like I had this whole week booked to do these two parts, and then the entire week got booked on me for trips.
Ooh, fun.
Um, so I have like one day in between the two trips, or at least a couple hours where I could work on them. I have tonight and I have most of tomorrow. And then if I needed to finish them up on Monday, I have time to finish them up on Monday. But um, I desperately need to get those parts done.
Yep. Um, One more thing that I was thinking about. Sorry, my brain was still on the Tormach mode. Um, you need to see, and this might be spoilers if there's anyone actually working on this at Tormach, but because they've got the fourth axis, it'd be cool to see some sort of dynamic work offset where you can set the center line of the fourth axis, and then you could if you had a vise held on an angle, you could probe that part in that vise and have a kind of like what MRZP is with the 5-axis,
Mm-hmm.
but a dynamic work offset for the Tormach would be kind of cool.
I know Linux CNC supports that. I don't know if Pathpilot has it integrated.
Yeah, but maybe that's just an Easter egg if you could ask someone up there while you're there,
Yeah.
if you remember to bring it up, because it'd be cool to be able to like stick a vise on there at like a 90 and then probe in a part and then, you know, do fourth axis work with it.
Yeah. Um, I was trying to think if it does do that already. I
I
never
wasn't able to get it
tried.
to do work that with mine. Um, but oh, spoiler alert. Well, okay. The reason I wasn't able to get it to work with mine is because I don't know a way to define the center axis of the fourth axis. Because like with the
That's what it always uses.
no. Like in MRZP, it puts it in a very special holder, and it references that whenever you're doing a dynamic work offset. It's in its own separate setting. It's separate from your normal offsets.
Oh, really?
It's yeah. So on the Haas controller, it's in a separate location, and you can probe it in separately. And then whenever you're running stuff, you turn it on and off, and it'll reference that location
Oh,
whenever it's
interesting.
doing the dynamic offset.
So I would
So
just set my 0 point as the center of the chuck at the spindle face
yes,
or the chuck face.
you would set that point, and then in theory, you could probe a point anywhere else in 3D space. And when it rotated it, it would update that coordinate system based on how far the fourth has rotated. That's how it works on the Haas.
I guess I never did try that.
Yeah, so like if you like
Yeah, I
the
never did
way
that. You're right.
the way it works on the Tormach was that you had to find that center line point, and then you had to program off that center line point. And
Yes.
so you had to program. So with a dynamic offset, you could have a part that wasn't on the center line axis. It could be over, it could be up,
Oh,
down,
okay,
left,
okay.
right. You can probe it over there, and it knows where the center line rotation is, so it'll rotate the coordinate system of the part. So that like if you did have a vise and it was at a 90 and you had it pushed off to one side, or it wasn't centered, or you wanted to do op 2 and you wanted to perfectly touch it off, if you don't have dynamic work offset, it has to exactly match what's in your model.
Yeah. So if you're using dynamic work offsets, your work coordinate system in Fusion can be anywhere you want
Exactly.
it. Okay. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. I I probably just if I had to do something where I like with a fixture on op 2 on the fourth axis, I would just machine it in place right before running the program. And that way
Yes.
you know it's as close as it's going to get.
Yes. But if you had like a block with holes and you wanted to do, 6 sides of that part, and you stuck block with holes on there for side 1, did 3 sides, rotated it, and wanted to do the other 3 sides, um, it would be really hard to get it lined up perfectly in all the different axes if you didn't have dynamic work offset without doing some weird things. Like it can be done. Like it's not impossible, but it's just so much easier when you because like on my Haas on my 5-axis, I can throw any piece of material, and I don't have to be like I have a template in there where I can throw a piece of material on there, and as long as I'm within about an eighth inch of the center of the self-centering vise, it'll probe the material and update it, and it'll cut just fine. So
That makes sense. I'm not sure I understood dynamic work offsets until this conversation, so thank you.
yeah, so it basically allows you it has a saved location of where the rotations are, and it references those when you reprobe anything else in. So super nice, love it.
That does
Um,
sound nice.
so
I
I'd love
do
to
want to
see.
work with I do want to work with Norman on the probe and their macros because right now it doesn't do probe run out compensation in the calibration macros.
Mm.
And I feel like it should be relatively easy to like port over the Renishaw macros or something. I'm sure they
Yeah.
can't do that for copyright reasons, but I think we could write something that would dial that in, because that's like the best part of the Renishaw macros. Like that's the reason it's better than the Tormach probe. Well, that's an oversimplification, but like being able to, like, you can pretty easily get a probe within a couple tenths, but getting those last couple tenths is like really time consuming, and
Mm-hmm.
having it just kind of fix itself and compensate for the trilobular air of
Yeah.
the probe.
Yep.
So
Yeah, it can do some really cool things. That Renishaw probe. So,
yep,
speaking
I
of
put
Tormox and machines and whatnot, I was going to mention real quick. Sorry, I interrupted you.
you're fine.
My machine is gone. My Tormach is sold.
Woo.
So there is now a hole in my heart for a new machine.
Preferably a BT30 drill and tap machine. Says
No,
AJ.
no,
Not says you guys, says AJ.
yeah, no. We're looking at right now. We're looking at we can either go with our budget, and these are the kind of the two machines we're looking at. We can go um, Doosan brand new SVM 4100, or for the same slash cheaper price, we can get a Haas machine with all the same options, but with a fourth axis that's used. Because we're looking at a couple right now. So the Doosan is bog standard Doosan. It's got the dual contact 12K. With the way we've got it outfitted, it would come with a chip conveyor, through spindle coolant, and wireless probing. I think the through spindle coolant is standard, but the wireless probing and the chip conveyor were not. I think those are the only two add-ons we added. Um, and then the Haas that we are looking at that's used, VF2 SS. It's got a 15K spindle, through spindle coolant, wireless probing, fourth axis. Basically all the software unlocks that Haas has. And a couple other auger. Um, it's basically a copy paste of our current machine and its features, with a 15K spindle and a fourth axis.
Okay.
So
You have a 10K now?
12.
12K. Okay. So 3 more K.
3 more K. Which would make a difference on some of the stuff we're running. So
I would strongly, strongly recommend you wait until IMTS before making any decisions.
the only reason we would have to make a decision, at least on the Doosan, is that they're running a major discount that ends before IMTS.
And there are better discounts at IMTS and afterwards, guaranteed.
20 their discount they're running is a 25% off.
IMTS and the end of the year discounts are always the best discounts of the year. Guaranteed.
We'll see.
That's like all machines or all
True.
machine tool builders. Like that is a definite.
True.
You might even be able to get like a if you come to IMTS ready to buy, like one, the salespeople love that and they will be a lot more willing to work on price with you. And
Mm-hmm.
two, you might be able to get a demo machine like the one that's there for a pretty steep discount.
That's a good idea. And it's pretty close. It's our first time going, so I'm just scared of relying on that. At least versus like I know in theory that sounds right. But I don't know. It also seems like you're kind of waiting on luck to make sure that happens.
I mean, it's only 2 months away, and it's something that happens every single IMTS.
Yeah, I know. I know. I'll think on it. I'll think on it. I'll talk to my cousin. It's not a bad idea. It's a great idea, honestly. It is. Um
And you might get there and find the,
A
Jorgensorger
different machine.
4500 that nobody's ever seen or heard, but is the like exact perfect machine for you.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong. I've wondered that in the back of my head, but I've never said it out loud. So that's not a bad idea, but we'll see. We'll see. Because we're gonna have to finance it as well. So, which I'm sure they would do.
Oh yeah.
Um, but the more we can
I
be
would
prepared for that, the better.
I would try to get your financing sorted out before you go to IMTS.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like getting, pre-approved when you're house shopping or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
Yep.
so that when you're there, you can, make the best deal.
Yeah. It's not a bad idea. I might have to talk to our local sales rep and query them about them going to IMTS and if I can get a better deal if I do go do that if they've had that happen.
I would maybe talk to other people who aren't the sales rep who are going to try to maximize the amount of money that you're going to spend.
True, they're not wrong. I just don't know anyone else that is has one of those in our area.
Listeners, give me
Listeners,
your
yes,
opinion. Well, give Harrison your opinion about IMTS deals.
yes, please. Anyone who has gone through this, please give me your feedback because I am in need of people wiser than myself.
Yeah, there's always a ton of deals right at the end of the year.
There is. I mean, that's how we got our current machine. We got it. We got it. We only got 17 or 18% off of this, the one that we currently have. So, but it was still a lot because it was such an expensive machine. But it's been an awesome machine. So, speaking of which, shout out to Dylan at Protium. He sent a person our way that wasn't a good that he didn't think was a good fit for his shop, and they
Mm-hmm.
might become a major customer of ours. So I'm working through that right now, and that's part of the reason I'm stressed out because um, I have one major customer that I was working on. I think I've mentioned it. It's going to be like an 8,000 reoccurring part order, and then this other customer that Dylan sent me, um, it they could potentially become a repeat order of about 50 pieces of an assembly. So it's each assembly has 5 parts, so it would be 250 parts a month. Um, and so it would be awesome if we could get that kind of a repeat job going. And so between that repeat work potential, the repeat work we're looking at for the 8,000 pieces, and then if our other major customer ever starts actually selling machines again and starts actually sending out parts, um, we are not going to be able to do enough with the one machine for sure. Potentially not two. We might even need a third if everything starts coming online quickly. So exciting stuff, but scary stuff.
Yep.
So what's nice is that all three customers, if those do become our three major customers, they're all three in different industries, and that's something else that I'm super excited about. Is I
Ooh,
want
that
to
is
have
nice.
I want to have at least three major customers, and I want to have them in three different industries.
Yep.
Um, and then I'd love to get maybe a fourth, but that might be pushing my luck right now. But we'll start with at least two and maybe three, and then I can think about my future beyond that point. Um, so exciting stuff, scary stuff, especially whenever we've been slow and now we're in the month where we basically have no money coming in because we were slow and we needed to be slow to catch up on some things. But now we're slow and need a new machine, and I'm going on a trip and we're busy.
Yeah.
So it's it's stress everywhere.
Yeah. I have this problem right now where I have like $6,000 in receivables, but zero cash on hand.
Yeah.
That's where I'm at right now.
We've had a healthy net 30 and it's all coming in, and but it's basically we're at the end of that. And so now we have a lot of stuff that we haven't billed for yet that's then going to hit a net 30 that then we're going to get paid for. So we're probably a month and a half out from all the major stuff we're working on right now.
Yeah. If I when I finish this job that I'm working on, the two pieces, that is 2 weeks of income for me.
Nice.
So it'll and I'm trying to get it done in like 3 days.
Yeah.
I don't don't tell my wife this yet, but I don't think I'm going to be able to go on the family trip that's the end of this week. I just
Uh-oh.
don't see how it's possible.
Um, Speaking of things that might or might not be possible, my large order of 400 pieces that I was talking about earlier, um, that's going to be potentially turned into the 8,000 piece order. I've started working on the fixturing for that, so I
Okay.
should know tomorrow if that
What do
fixturing.
you mean it might not be possible? You have to expand on that.
So, um, I've done everything I can to make sure it's going to work in the computer, and it should clear. But there's some tight clearances in a couple of places, and um, this will be the first time I've done a fixture where I'm doing multiple parts on the 5 axis.
Okay.
So I don't know what problems may or may not arise because of that. So, like, if I have to do a different offset for every single position, if to like tweak things in, which I hope I don't have to do, I shouldn't have to do. The whole point of this is that I want to eventually convert it to a 0 point system. Um, but this is kind of the first step, and nothing is ever as simple as it sounds like it should be on paper. But this
Yeah.
one might be. I don't know. We'll see. I'm just trying not
Um,
to count my chickens before they hatch.
yeah, I would definitely arrange your code in a way where it would be easy to change your op2s to being able to do them on separate offsets.
Yeah.
For op1s, it won't matter, but for op2s, I would give yourself that option.
Yeah, and I can already do that. It's real easy right
Okay,
now. Right now,
that's
I
good.
just have all the code in there, and then I have it as a circular pattern. So it'd just be changing it from a because I have it going around the perimeter of my material. Um, but if this ends up working as well as I hope it does, I'm gonna be over the moon. Like it is, it's been so much time and thought put into this stupid thing, and I was so happy today because I'm was working on the fixturing for it, and there was some small pieces that go on the inside of the part for op2 to hold it, and I was able to make those in one op on the 5 axis before I took the vise off. And I made a couple extra because they're small, and if they get damaged, I don't want to be up a creek. Um, but I was just really happy with how well they turned out, and I had a couple sample pieces lying around that I was test fitting them into to make sure they worked. And so everything's coming together, but it also just scares me a little.
Yep. Speaking of 0 points, I haven't bought a 0 point yet, and I don't know. Speaking of counting chickens before they're hatched, um, but once my huge amount of receivables actually enters my bank account, I'm officially buying a 0 point. So, Breaking Taps, he has a YouTube channel. If you aren't familiar with
Mm-hmm.
that, has a used system. It's one of the knockoff Aroas, but it's one of the nice knockoff Aroas. And
Yeah,
he was going to give me a pretty good deal on that. So it'll be kind of a starter pack that'll have one of the Aroa bases, a Vice, and then like a ER30 to call it Chuck. And then
nice.
I already have four of those cheap import Vices that I can stick on top of it. Um, and then there's like the Bolton Tools. They have a knockoff pneumatic base that's like dirt cheap, like scary cheap. And
Mm-hmm.
I may also get that. So then I'll have two stations on the mill or the option to move one somewhere else in the future.
Gotcha. I, I've got a. Speaking of uh, used 0 point systems, I've got a listener, which I can't remember his name off the top of my head. He was telling me that he had um, a 5th axis 0 point system that he was looking at upgrading to a Lang, and he wanted to know if I was interested in it. Which that's not the direction I was initially planning on going. But if it's a good enough deal and it can get me down the road and it can get me some exposure with a system, I might be picking that up just to play around with, get some use out of before I invest in something a little more expensive.
One thing to watch for, make sure it is the steel based version of the fifth axis, not the aluminum version, because they're shockingly close in price. And people have a lot of issues with the aluminum ones picking up dinks and stuff.
Yep. Yep. That makes
So
sense.
I would watch for that. I would not, under I think any circumstances, buy the aluminum fifth axis one. I don't see any problems with the steel one, though. They've had a track record of crappy pull studs, and people keep breaking their pull studs.
Oh, really?
Um, but I don't know if that's like a solved issue or a still ongoing issue, or it was like a couple people had a bad experience with them, and then they picked up a reputation. Um,
Yeah.
my instinct would still be Lang, but a cheap used fifth axis would be like now versus a Lang 10 years in the future is I would go with the fifth axis
Yeah.
now.
Yeah. So that's what I got to figure out. Um, I like options, and right now I'm a baller on a budget. So,
Yeah.
so anything I can do to save $1 and get us a little bit further to our end goals, the better. Um, which
Well,
brings
and
up a whole. Go
any
ahead.
top tooling is transferable between Lang and fifth axis. So if you don't like the base plate, okay, sell that on Facebook Marketplace, switch out the pull studs and buy a Lang plate. Like it's all
Yeah.
compatible.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that kind of goes back to the Lang versus um, Shunk. Yeah. Shunk. So Um, Shunk is better for automation from what the people that I've talked to and the little I've understood. Shunk is better if you're going to go into a straight automated system at some point in the near future. Lang is better, is just more compact and
And cheaper.
and cheaper. Um, and so and maybe even a little more flexible in terms of like how you can load up things than the Shunk is. So I'm not sure. That's something I definitely, if we don't do anything before IMTS, and this is kind of like if I could get the fifth axis stuff and play around with it before IMTS, that might even be better. That way, when I go to IMTS, I'd actually know the questions to ask and what to look for. So, um, yeah,
One of the reasons I'm going with Aroa is because from what I've seen, it seems to be the most automatable one.
yeah,
And I think one of the more accurate ones. It's definitely not the most rigid of them, and you definitely can't do as big parts. But for what I do, I think it's basically perfect.
yeah. I need to go rewatch that Saunders video of that big shop that's like all automated because he's got those
Yeah, what were they
massive.
using?
Because he used Aroa, but I don't remember what his. Well, he used the Aroa palette changing things, but I don't know what the bottom was. If it was Aroa or if it was something else.
If there, I mean, if he's using a row of pallets, and it's some sort of a row of base.
Could be. But what's cool is he could stack them. Like he had the grobes, and he could put in a platter that would adapt it down to a smaller size, and so he could like stack up um in his grobe, and he could do small parts on small platters, and then he could destack it and then do large parts, and it was all automated. Honestly, that is like one of the sickest automation setups I've personally ever seen on the internet. Um, and I've been searching for automation stuff on the internet for like on YouTube. I think I've consumed about everything that I can find. Um, although I will say this, um, I had a huge win last week, and I'm glad I just thought of this. Um, there, when I was working on this fixture for the 400 pieces, I wanted my stock to transfer from one part to the next. Do you know how to do that? Like if I have op 1 in my model and then I have op 2 and I have a different model and I want the stock to transfer from this model to this model because they both exist on the in the model at the same time.
Short of modeling it, or I believe there's a way you can export the the rest stock and then like re-import it as a model and then move it over. Other than that, no.
Okay. So I was watching YouTube videos and I came across this video of this guy, and this is going to be a rabbit hole, but just try to stay with me. He was talking about best practices in Fusion, and he was
Uh
reading
huh.
a form, and he found a video that was delisted on YouTube. He didn't show the video, but he was scrolling through the listing or the discussion post, and I caught a frame of that link, and I took a photo of it with my phone, and then I was able to hover over it, and it opened it up, like where it read the what it is,
Uh huh.
and it opened the YouTube video up, and then I forwarded that link to my computer, and I got the delisted video,
Nice.
and it was a guy that was responding to that post, and he was like, "Hey, so and so, here's some best fusion practices," and he showed the best way that I found to have two models and have it automatically transfer the stock and stay up to date. And I can't explain how to do it, but I can tell you it can be done, and I can tell you I'm using it, and it is the best thing ever.
You can't explain it because it's complicated, or
I can't explain it because I don't have Fusion open. I did it last week, and there was a series of steps to make it work.
you
Um,
should record a quick screen capture and send me the video, and I can put
I'll
it on
do you
my.
one better. If I can find that unlisted video, I might still have
Okay,
it open. I'll send you that.
it'll
But
be in your YouTube watch history.
yeah, it is one of the best things ever, and it
Okay.
was not that hard.
Because if it were like if it's that good, I can do a quick YouTube video on it and get that knowledge back into the public domain.
Yeah, because it is awesome. Because like I have always wondered how to do it, and like it just worked. Like I didn't have to fight for it. I can put it wherever I want. I can have a model here and a model wherever the frick in there, and it'll automatically update the stock between the two.
Nice. That is definitely something people have asked about with my templates. And I've always been like, I don't know, I just don't deal with it. Like I just
Yeah,
like I don't bother.
but I needed it to work for this one, and the only other way that I've known to do it is you have the same model and you put your stock in two different places on that model, like you move your
Yeah.
whole setup. That's the way I've done it in the past, and I could have done it this way, but I didn't want to have two big copies of this massive assembly, and I wanted to have the stock update on the whole model. So both of those
Yeah.
worked, and I was so happy. So
Nice.
um, major win, major win. But I wish there was more videos out there like that of like fusion best practices,
Mm-hmm.
because it was just very well done for a guy responding to someone on a random thread. So whoever you
Nice.
are out there, I found your video and I love you. It's unlisted. Don't ever take it down.
I have two videos right now that are recorded that I just need to edit. Man, at the end of this week, I'm going to have like 6 videos recorded that I just need to edit.
Hmm.
Um, and I just published one a day or two ago about
Yeah.
my optical comparator gridfinity blocks.
Speaking of which, that when we were talking last week on the podcast, and you were talking about how you did the soft jaws from the top, and I couldn't wrap my
Yes.
head around it. You need to do a video, post something on that, because
Really?
the way my brain worked, I didn't think it was possible until I saw that, and I was just like, that is the most ingenious. Why didn't I think of this before? This is awesome. So
I yeah, I still don't really know how to explain it. You just cut deeper on the sides.
yeah, well, yeah, it just takes one photo, and then it all clicks. That's all it takes, and um, that one photo is all I needed, and then it was just like my eyes have been opened. I see. That's awesome. So, anyways, share a photo of that or something. Video makes do something
My
with it.
finishes on those soft jaws are so bad. I don't think we can put that on the internet.
That's fair. That's
in
fair.
in
Oh,
my defense, it was
do
a inch and a quarter long 1/16 inch ball mill that I was using.
do that at Tormach. That's a great make soft gels like that on Tormach. Make it part of your video.
I don't think we'll have time.
Ah, that'd be cool though.
Um, the No, I don't want to say what we're planning on making because I don't think I'm actually going to make it because I haven't designed it yet, and I need to make it in like 2 days.
Okay.
So, and I have
Well,
so much else to do. But
if you can sneak that in there, that'd be cool.
actually, maybe I can say it because I'm so positive right now that I probably won't be making it that I can just say that I'm probably not making it. But the original plan was to do a GoPro case that would be like machine safe and have an air knife to clean off the lens.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And
That
the
would be cool.
original idea was that I could take one and then Tormach could take one. We'll make two of them. And that way they can use it to record like marketing footage. And then I can have one for YouTube videos. But at this point, considering that thing's not even designed yet, I just don't see how it's going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, that'd be cool. But this podcast, I started off like tired and just not with it, and this is actually like making me feel better and more alive. I don't
That's
know,
because you're
just
a
like
people
thinking about.
person.
I am. I
We
am a
got
people person.
I come out
It's
of the
because
podcast and I'm just like tired and want to play on my phone for half an hour.
yeah.
Not
Well,
because you're tiring, but just because I'm not a people person. And this is
no,
like the
my
most talking I do with anyone in like my week. So
my wife is so um and introverted. I was gonna say antisocial, but it's introverted that like I completely get it. Like she goes and spends like 5 minutes outside and she's like, all right, I'm done. I've seen enough people. I'm going inside to read. So but no, this is good. Um don't got too much else to talk about right now. Um so much of the stuff that I have in the works I can't talk about too much other than new machines and new customers and trying to figure out how to make it all work.
do you know what we can talk about?
What?
Our patrons,
Ooh,
Patreons,
do they have a
patrons.
question?
They do have a question.
Yes.
I'm going to start. Okay, fine. I'll start with that. Jake Brownson says, any updates or more detail on troubleshooting 5-axis accuracy?
Ooh.
How's the test part working? He has the second part of his question, but we'll answer that part first.
So my 5-axis adventures have been getting better. I have it's basically just not hogging as hard. Um and cuz like my only problems that I've had so far is my vise moving or my table moving or my whole trunnion. And I've done a much better job of slowing all of that stuff down. And my accuracy, I would say it's real easy to get under 2 thou accuracy on parts. Um, but when you get down to 1 thou, or tighter, you have to be either very careful with your feeds and speeds, or you might have to go back in and reprobe and make sure everything's where it was last, because things tend to move by like 1 thou or so on the whole system. But as long as if you're going to do something that's super accurate, as long as you make sure you dial in your probe and make sure that your trunnion's in the right spot, that your vice is in the right spot, and your MRZP is still good. Um, there's kind of like a checklist that I've got now that I go through if I have to run really tight tolerance stuff that's positional. But I would say I'm pretty comfortable with things being within at least 2, maybe 3 thou, worst case, um, pretty consistently. And I can get down to 1 thou ish, maybe thou and a half or half 1 thou, somewhere in that range, if I really go through and like make sure everything's dialed in perfectly. Um, and it's been awesome. So
So better.
better. Yeah, I'm the learning curve is going down. Um, I definitely the next 5-axis I get, I want it to be integrated and not a bolt-on solution, just because that has caused more headaches. Even though I'm down to a point where I've got a system in place that's working much better, um, it still would be if it was just all integrated and I didn't have to worry about the axes moving and I only had to worry about my vice moving, it would just eliminate a stress point, a potential stress point. So,
All right, the other half of that question, he says he needs to machine some 303 stainless. How should he expect that it compares to 304 or 316?
Um, 303 machines so much easier. I almost treat 303 like I would like a 1018 steel, like compared to like stainless steel. Like it is, or compared to like 304 or 316. Um, I think with 304, now granted, I've been running really high SFMs with my tooling, um, even on 304s. And so I've been running, I've approached 700 SFM, but I'm comfortably in about 500 SFM range on 304s. But with 303s, I can get up into around 1,000 or so.
Wow. Okay.
Um, and to 800 to 1,000, I can get up in there and be fine. But in general, it just machines like you could if you ran your 304 feeds and speeds, you would have zero problems. It's not going to cause any problems. You can just push it a lot harder, which usually just means increasing your SFMs until you feel like you can't go any further, or taking a bigger bite a little bit. Like you can take a little bit of a bigger bite, but usually it's just an SF. Like it's usually the same cut. It's just at a higher speed.
I've machined almost no 303. I do a ton of 304. I do even more 316. And lately I've done a lot of 440. But
I've done
never do 303.
how's 304 compared to 316? Because I haven't machined very much 316.
They're not too different, but 316 is a little bit tougher.
Okay, I noticed a huge difference between 304 and 303. 303 it just machines like butter, and it's a dollar finish unless you're really flying. Like it kind of like the 1018 where it kind of is like a um clay or putty texture. It's like a hard to get like a really bright finish as you would with something that was harder. Like, have you ever machined like oh like a 17.4 stainless? It's technically a harder material, but it machines like it leaves like a mirror finish when you machine it because it's
Yes.
harder and it creates a really nice chip. Um, but 303 and like a 1018, it's more gummy. And so I feel like if you go slow, it sticks to your tool. It doesn't leave as nice of a finish. It's not as shiny. 304 I think has a little more chromium in it, I think. And so it just leaves them like if you took two pieces and you machined them in exactly the same process, the 304 piece is going to be shinier like 99.9% of the time in my experience.
Interesting. I don't know. I did some A36 the other day. I don't remember the last time I machined 1018. That's just like not a material that comes across my shop at all. Um,
So
but I had
I've
some
mach-
A36 that I used on the Gridfinity blocks, and I
mhm.
don't know, that machined fine.
Oh, it
It was
machines
shiny.
fine. Uh, One thing I've noticed with 1018, and I'd love to hear feedback from listeners. I can get a really good finish on the side of parts, but whenever I try to face it, whether I use an end mill or a face mill, it always seems very swirly on the top. And that's where it seems like if you looked at your Gridfinity parts and you looked at the side finish versus the top finish, now
The sides
you
were better.
yeah, the sides are always way better versus if I'm machining say 304 and I machine my faces are much cleaner than my sides. Like if I face with an end mill, it's going to be bright, shiny, and like a glass surface. Versus it's harder to get it on the sides. But 1018 and 303, I think, are like the reverse. It's easier to get a side finish nice, but it's harder to get the top finish as nice. And I feel like it's because it's like a gummy where it's like dragging through the material if you're facing it. Like it's not creating a chip. It's like creating a. It's like a putty or something. Like it's not chipping. It's like dragging it.
Have you ever done any 440? I had like this 2 week long period where it was the only thing I cut,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't a huge fan of it.
I've had good 440 and I've had bad 440, and it all depends on the batch from the supplier.
Interesting.
So I've had 440 that has been the nicest cutting steel I've ever cut. I mean, it came off looking like a mirror, and it was just awesome. The chips were great. And then I've had 440 that felt like it felt like I was machining a harder 1018. Like it felt like it was the
440,
worst.
not 4140.
Oh,
440
41.
stainless. It's a knife. It's
Oh,
like a
oh,
kitchen knife kind of steel.
no, I've never machined that. Sorry.
Okay.
I was thinking 4140, not
I
440.
like 4140. 4140 is great.
Yeah, I've had different batches of 4140 where I've had some batches that it acts like a harder version of 1018. Like it acts like that gummy-ish material. And then I've had some that I think was either pre-hard or something. And it was a harder material, but the finishes on it, and it was almost easier to machine because it was a little bit
The
harder.
Yeah, for the pry bars, I did pre-hard 4140, and that stuff was great. Yeah, I liked machining that stuff.
Yeah. And see that's kind of how I compare 303 to 304. Except 304, the problem with 304 is honestly 304 is the one I've probably seen the biggest variation in my suppliers is from 304, because I have some 304 that machines like a pre-hard material where it might be a little bit harder, but it just machines like it just leaves a much nicer finish. And then I've had some that it's like a softer, it's like annealed, um, but it destroys my tooling. It eats it like crazy, and I can't
Yeah,
figure out what to do in that situation because going faster doesn't help, and going slower leaves a horrible finish. So
that's that surprises me. Um, yeah, the parts I have on my machine now, which coincidentally have eaten 2 tools in the last hour, um, is 304. It's a big piece of 304,
yeah,
and I don't know. I don't like 304 as much.
I do notice with 304 as features get thinner, the chances of things heating up, hardening, and then causing things to break goes up drastically.
Yeah, that's
So
the problem I have with it.
is like because like I was machining a part the other day and I had a tapped hole, and the distance between the tapped hole and the side of the hole was it was like a M8 screw, and it was something in the neighborhood of like 40 thou or less between the major thread and the side of the part.
That heat
And
affected zone.
I cut the sides out before I drilled the hole the first time, and you can see the thread on both sides just bulging out, heating up, and then just it destroyed the tap. The next
Interesting.
part, I drilled and tapped that feature first, and then I cut the sides away, and it was fine. It had no problems. So, order of operations on that one made a huge difference.
That's interesting.
So, like, it just needed extra mass to pull the heat away.
Yeah. Hmm. This part I'm working on has a bunch of thin walls. Hopefully that doesn't come and get me.
Yeah. So whenever you run into that, you're gonna have to slow things down. That's about the
I
only thing
run
you
my
can
tools
do.
way slower than you do.
Yeah, but even slower than what you probably normally run. If you run into problems, you might even have to slow it down more.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
Um.
Um,
Anyway, we have one more question. It's EJ at Nocturnal Welding. When is Serven going to be on again? That is a good question. We need to get them on. Have they
we need to
doubled
have
in
more
size yet?
guests.
That's our tradition.
We need to have more guests on. Do you think any of the podcast listeners would like to be guests, or any not the podcast listener, any of the Patreon members?
I'm sure someone would.
We might have to reach out to the Patreon members and see if they want to be come on.
Yeah, we could do like a Patreon episode. Would be fun.
That'd be a lot of fun. That one episode we did where we just like were randomly calling people in the middle of our podcast
The
and adding
Christmas
them in.
episode.
That was so much fun.
That was a great episode.
We need to do that. More impromptu guests. Hey, we're recording. Want to jump on?
Anyway, speaking of Patreons, and I'm horribly sorry for the people who get offended when we call them Patreons instead of patrons, but technically they're called members, and so neither
Okay.
term is correct. but I'm going to call them Patreons. New this week, this month. This week is this month. We have Johnny Woods, who joined the Bucka Show membership or tier. So thank you, Johnny. I talk to him on Instagram fairly regularly.
Nice.
We also have 2 more free members. Thank you guys for joining. The free members get access to the weekly Q&A, remember. The paid members get access to the early shows. And also the $10 a month tier gets their name read out, which I totally have pulled up and ready to go. And I'm not trying to find the button.
You're not stalling. I'm not stalling.
Those members include Eric at the $25 month tier, Alexander B, Scott DeRuby from Design the Everything, Jamie Peacock from JSpec Engineering. I didn't even have to look that up this time. Zach at Volunteer Machine Works, Chris Zajic at Zajic Precision, EJ at Nocturnal Welding, Simon, is he Thought Bomb Design? No. Simon not at Thought Bomb Design. Simon V. Then we have Chris at Thought Bomb Design. There we go. Sorry, Chris / Simon. And of course, Jake Brownson. Brownson. We appreciate all of you guys, even if I'm terrible at reading your names. Also, don't forget that we have the IMTS meetup coming on the 9th of September, Monday at IMTS, 2 p.m. We will be in the Tormach booth. Bring a part to show off if you're nervous about talking to people, and that'll be a super good icebreaker. Harrison and I will both be there. We'll have at least something in the way of refreshments from Tormach, and we will all be able to hang out and have fun.
Can I call you out?
What?
You owe me coin designs.
Oh, I went to send you them the other day, and then there was for some reason that I couldn't.
So at this point, we might just have to hand them out in person at IMTS as things continue.
I have given up on combining the coin designs into one coin design, and I was just gonna
if you have all the designs,
send you all the files.
Yeah, just send me all the files. I can piece things together if that's what you're trying to do.
But the 4-minute task has prevented me from sending these to you for 6 months. So I can't now. I don't know. I need to find the files again.
So you're going to send it to me on the podcast now that we've...
I am looking for him, yeah.
That's okay.
I might have to go back to the guy who made them and be like, can you resend those to me, please? I have them somewhere, I swear.
Oh, I don't doubt it. I just need them somewhere. Over here.
What's his name?
I don't know.
Here, while I do that, you can do that.
All right. Well, AJ goes around and ignores the podcast and hunts down emails with the stuff for our coins. I guess I'll say goodbye. So, guys, thanks for hanging out with us and listening to our ramblings. Looking forward to IMTS and love hearing feedback from all you guys. So, Patreons, please keep sending those questions. I love those questions. And I love interacting with you guys, so keep it up. And, yeah, we'll catch you guys next time. This has been Harrison with Precision Ingenuity, signing out with AJ from Audacity Micro. And hopefully I've bought him enough time to find his emails and send me something. The awkward outro in this one is AJ staring blankly at a screen.
I'm looking for it. Bye.